in the recent during the last few months since July onwards, uh, tensions between Azerbaijan, Armenia, and two countries that had a ceasefire but never officially had peace increased since July onwards. The tensions increased, and then about a month ago, it led to pretty much a, significant conflict, and now it's a full-on war, pretty much between a independent region of I don't know what, to be honest, because technically it's part of Azerbaijan according to UN, according to resolutions passed by UN, passed by Security Council, but it's controlled and populated by ethnic Armenians following the collapse of the Soviet Union, and there are seven surrounding regions, and those seven surrounding regions are controlled by Armenian troops, Armenian forces, but the region, Nagorno-Karabakh, is independent technically. It has its own president, and they call it Republic of Arstak.
Oh, I didn't know it has its own president. Okay.
Yeah, it's like technically it's independent, but it's not recognized by including like by anyone, including Armenia, which is very odd. I believe it's recognized by a few American states, or I don't know. It's the whole legal situation of Nagorno-Karabakh is very odd, and the seven surrounding areas. The the larger background was that following during Soviet Union years, and Armenians and Azeris would argue partially due to Stalin's divide and rule policies, there was always tensions between Armenian and Azeris during Soviet years. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union, the over the issue of the Nagorno-Karabakh, these two countries basically went to war. A massive war lasted about 6 years or 5 years. A lot of people died. A lot of people got displaced. And then there was this group formed called Minsk Group, led by US, Russia, and France, that sought to come up with a peace, come up with a compromise. It didn't make a lot of progress. It made some progress in early noughts, in 2000s and onwards, but it hadn't made any progress. It tried to even bring peace to Armenia and Turkey, tried to make, like there was a few steps, I believe, even Erdogan about 10 years ago referred to some crimes or criminality committed by Turkish forces or something. So there was some hope at some point. But during the last couple of years, especially with the coming to power of a popular president in Armenia, like probably the first democratic, like in terms of like Western powers were, approved of the elections, and he was an outside figure. He was a journalist who had exposed corruptions in the past, Nikol Pashinyan. He came to power about 2 years ago. He seemed to sort of shy away from the Minsk group and the peace settlement there and that roadmap that was developed. At the same time, he seemed to have a more troubled relationship with Armenia's biggest ally, biggest backer, Russia. At the same time, Azerbaijan had much increased growth, economic growth, because of, again, its gas fields in the Caspian Sea, and oil. It has some oil fields in the Caspian Sea. So they had much more money coming in. And even though they basically lost the war in the 90s, now militarily they have the upper hand. Their population is about 3 times as much as Armenia. They've been buying weapons from Russia to first of all to buy weapons, second of all to further develop their relationship with Russia. So now Russia is not, you can't say Russia is a staunch supporter of Armenia. Russia has interest in both countries. At the same time, they had a significant growth in their relationship with Israel, and they've been buying a lot of Israeli weapons, Israeli technology, and especially during the last week, there has been a lot of focus on the use of Israeli drone technology by Azerbaijanis to attack inside the Nagorno-Karabakh region. And it seems to be something that is changing the balance of power towards Azerbaijan. But during the last week, by the way, there was a ceasefire that seemed to have been brokered by Russia. But since that ceasefire was announced, pretty much about 12 hours after it was announced, both sides, both Armenians and Azeris, started to accuse each other of breaking the ceasefires. There was reports of shellings, there was reports of drone attacks, which continued to today, until today. Every day there are new reports, new deaths. There are reports that are seem to have been confirmed, at least by European sources, that Azerbaijan is using illegal weapons banned by Geneva Convention, and it's been, shooting residential areas. But it's a war situation. Who knows? Maybe these are misinformation, because within Europe, at least, Armenia has far more support than Azerbaijan. Kind of going back again to our first story, this may be partially due to the fact that Turkey is supporting Azerbaijan. Most people speculate that if it weren't for Turkey giving Azerbaijan the green light, Azerbaijan wouldn't have started this attack on Armenia. So European, especially again France, Macron, the country which is a chair of the Minsk group, have been very, very supportive of Armenia, at least in their rhetoric. And at the same time, Azerbaijan has called for Turkey to be included in whatever group that is going to mediate the peace deal between Azerbaijan and Armenia.
Although they did agree, I guess, to a ceasefire deal that was only mediated by the Russians, right?
That was a ceasefire, but for larger, like, let's say, peace talks or whatever you want to call it. But that has been largely rejected by Russia. But that has been largely rejected by Russia. At the same time, Azerbaijan has rejected France as an impartial mediator. It continues to become a shit show. But what is probably significant is that it's that's what I was kind of wanted to. That's how it connects to the whole Eastern Mediterranean, Turkey, all that. I was watching this interview with Bashar Assad from a Sputnik, Russian-funded channel, and another expert from some channel was arguing the same thing, and they were both arguing that if you look at Libya, if you look at Syria, if you look at Iraq, if you look at now Nagorno-Karabakh, Azerbaijan, there is one common element, and that's Turkey. And it's Turkey that is basically destabilized.
In Iraq, though, but also Iraq?
You could, Daesh, they meant Daesh. Daesh was active both in Iraq and Syria. They were referring to the fact that Daesh was selling oil to Turkey or through Turkey or whatever. And look, in a way, they are right. In a way, they're right. Yeah, Turkey has been active in all these countries, and it's been active in a way to maximize its own interest. But to be honest, Iran has been doing the same. America has been doing the same. And that's Turkey's. I'm not saying Turkey's right, by the way. I'm just saying that it makes sense for them to when you have borders with another country, and there are people like in Iraq or Syria, Turkmen people on the borders, people who speak Turkish. It's just, if you don't do it it's kind of weirder if you don't take advantage of a civil war in a different country. That's what politics is all about. So I don't, in a way, I find them. I don't. Again, I don't support Turkey. I don't think it's right now, especially with the economy of Turkey, with lira in a free fall, economy being really bad. I think it's better to focus on internal issues for the people of Turkey. But at the same time, I hate the self-righteous way that the Western people, like, as if Turkey is this troublemaker, and all I'm well, Britain is less, but anyway, all these countries mostly support American actions in the Middle East. Maybe France, of course, France didn't support America during the Iraq War, but they've been largely on the same side. So I find it very annoying when they portray Turkey, especially when the biggest ally of America, and to a lesser extent Europe, Saudi Arabia, was the one that, in terms of funding at least, was far more active than Turkey. It's look who everybody was active. This is not a value judgment.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
saying, yeah, the coverage is a bit one-sided.
No, I
And
couldn't agree more.
yeah, and to be honest, a bit of clarification on my own coverage of the thing, because I mentioned the whole there was a genocide of Armenians by Turkish Ottomans. But to be fair, Azeris, uh, this kind of comes back to the comment we had as well, that we had a commenter that saying that people from Azerbaijan were not actually Azerbaijanis, and they came from Central Asia or something like that. They were called Caucasians. First of all, I would say, sure, that's the historical past, but today is what it is. So I think today they identify as Azerbaijanis. They speak a language that is called Azerbaijani. Sure, ori- originally Iran was like Persia, was just a strip of land on the coast of Persian Gulf, right? But then it expanded, it included other areas, and now after 2,000 years, people from all over call themselves Persians. So, I mean, 100 years has passed. So I didn't mean it in a way that they are not Azerbaijanis. From what I understand from historical records, over a long period of time, people from Central Asia, Turkish-speaking people from Central Asia, came and settled in a region we call Azerbaijan. And they largely coexisted with Armenians, with Kurdish groups, with Yazidis, with a lot of different groups. So I think it's not really fair to say that they are not Azeris, or they came from somewhere else. It was a long and historical process, and it was largely peaceful until about like 100 years ago or something. It's like what are, oh, and one more thing. Even though I do think Azerbaijani government is extremely corrupt, and it's extremely uh, you know it's I mean, Aliyev is famous. I mean, there are so many videos on him on YouTube about him and his family and all that. Even though all of that is true, it is also fair to say Azerbaijan has become a tolerant place in terms of religious differences. Although I would say they are still, sadly, somewhat they have much restrictions on Armenian Orthodox and Armenian ethnic people. But it's a very tolerant place towards atheists. It's a very tolerant place towards agnostic people or people of different religions, largely. While, to be honest, Armenia, on the other hand, has, especially during the last 20 years, became a increasingly nationalistic and highly Christian nation. I mean, you can't ignore the fact that Karabakh region was at least 30% of the population was Azeri in 1990, like two, but now it's less than 3%. About 200,000 people, or a bit less, perhaps, got displaced. So both sides are at fault. It's not been such a long fight. It's been such a long ethnic conflict. And the thing I was gonna mention, I forgot, was that the genocide against Armenians was perpetrated by Turkish Ottomans. To be completely fair, there were even cases of Azeri population helping Armenians to escape in some cases. Like, I don't think Azeris at the time, they didn't seem to have been as involved in this genocide. It was more of a mainland Turkish, or not mainly mainland Turkish, but Anatolia Turkish event or Ionian Turkish event than an Azeri event. Because from what I know, many Armenians escaped to Iranian Azerbaijan and Russian Azerbaijan because of the genocide. So I don't think it's fair to blame, you know, not. I mean, it's completely unfair to blame people living now for crimes 100 years ago, but even historically to blame Azerbaijan or connect it somehow to that. Although I understand that the increased closeness between Azerbaijan and Turkey kind of lends itself to that interpretation. But yeah, it's a extremely complicated